Hello everyone, my name is Cal Patel. I'm CEO and co-founder of Bright Insight. Welcome back to our C-Suite Digital Health series. This week I'm excited to have Diana McKenzie with us. Diana is a technology executive, advisor, and board member with experience for over 30 years leading organizations through IT and technology. She's worked for organizations ranging from $3 to $20 billion in revenue. She's really a visionary leader who I feel lucky to have worked with at Amgen and excited now to have as a formal advisor with us here at Bright Insight. Today we'll talk about a few topics, including how to accelerate digital innovation within big biopharma, how CIOs should think about the traditional IT function versus supporting digital innovation, as well as IT's role in privacy, security, and regulatory. Before we dive in, Diana, tell us, where are you zooming in from today?
Hi, Cal. First of all, thank you for inviting me to be here. I am zooming in from the East Bay of San Francisco.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about your background and how you become a board member and technology advisor and CIO to some of the world's top biopharma, healthcare, and tech companies.
Sure. So I'm going to fast forward. I spent 30 years of my career in life sciences, the first 17 of those at Eli Lilly and Company, and then the last 12 at Amgen. In the last 5 years of my role at Amgen, I was in the Chief Information Officer role. And during that time, we initiated a large transformation of the company to sort of get ourselves back to the innovative roots that made the company so successful in the beginning before we grew very fast. And as part of that transformation, I had the opportunity to co-lead with you, Cal, our digital health build out digital health product strategy, and at the same time lead a technology innovation exercise to help us think about how we built technology into all aspects of what we did as the company. I learned from that experience that I really liked building software products that patients and physicians would use, but I also learned I didn't really understand as much as I thought I should how software companies worked. So when I got the opportunity to go to Workday as their first ever CIO, I jumped at the chance because it was a great company growing at hyperscale with a terrific culture and just a perfect opportunity, albeit outside of healthcare, to learn how software companies work. And ideally, what that's allowed me to do now is position myself to be a board member on the boards of healthcare technology companies, and also to work with early stage companies and help bridge my background in life sciences and in technology to help them be successful.
You've used that experience to now sit on the board or advise everything from startups to healthcare tech companies to major biopharmas. What are you saying in the boardroom to really engage and help drive the regulated digital health journey for these various organizations that you're supporting?
Yes, so first of all, I'll say I'm really fortunate that I have the opportunity to sit on boards with tremendous board membership. I am sitting around the table with a lot of other very technically savvy people, so I'm one of a number of voices in the room. What I would say is I'd break the answer into two pieces. For established companies, the challenge for them at this point is, there is no choice to not transform digitally. Nobody can be competitive today, especially given what we've been through this year with the pandemic, without embracing digital transformation. But balancing that while at the same time modernizing and maintaining legacy systems, kind of back to that Venn diagram I just spoke about, is a really important aspect of the role that a board member can play, is trying to really understand how those two aspects of the business are being balanced, understanding what the digital strategy is, how the execution is performing, and honestly, the regulatory compliance, cybersecurity, privacy concerns are concerns in both of those areas. So just making sure that the company understands the risks, they know what the risks are, they've understand it, they've mitigated them, is a really important place for board members to play. In emerging companies or early stage companies, it's really different because they're blessed to be at this digital native spot where it's going to be easier for them to move faster because they don't have the legacy that came from the last 20, 30 years of the way we did computing. So the good news there is they can move very fast and they can move with great agility. But there also is the risk that they build so fast that they don't think about building a really strong foundation on which they can scale. The second piece of that is regulatory compliance, security, and privacy can never be an add-on. So as a digital native, it's really important for the board members and the management team to agree that security, privacy, regulatory compliance are built in from the ground up, not only as part of the technology platforms, but also the company's culture and DNA.
Yeah, I can certainly appreciate that, those points sitting where I sit at Bright Insight. Tell us about the ecosystem part of what you just described, right? Because as you spoke earlier, it's not just about a company as a silo, but how do you integrate your technology infrastructure in the context of the rest of the ecosystem that a company needs to interact with?
Yeah, I think there are three challenges or three important focus points for any IT leader, working towards this end. The first of those is knowing the customer, and ideally that customer in the ecosystem is the patient. Sometimes it's the physician or sometimes it's the payer, but let's say for now it's the patient. And really working hard to understand what the outcome is you're trying to derive for that patient, and then what's their journey, and what are all the touch points that patient has on the journey, and how, as you think about delivering your specific medicine to that patient with your specific delivery system, how all the other touch points they have to deal with in their care journey, you're thinking about those and building those into the solution that you're going to present to them. The second challenge that becomes very important is, okay, now that I understand the journey and understand all those touch points, there's an awful lot for us to have to figure out what we build and what we partner with someone else to build. And also, resources that are skilled in this space are scarce. So if indeed you're going to build some of your own, ideally it's how do you recruit the right talent? How do you reskill the employee base that you have right now so that you can do this new digital work and be successful, and also pick the right strategic partners who can help you go fast. And then the last piece is trust. So this gets to this regulatory compliance, cybersecurity, privacy element, which can sound overwhelming, but in reality it all boils down to trust. If, as your team embraces whatever the product development or the product is you're trying to develop from the perspective of themselves as the patient, their friend, their family member, and how do you make sure that what you're building will deliver the outcome and build trust with the patient, but also build trust with the other players in the ecosystem. And ultimately, addressing it from that perspective then means you're automatically doing what you need to do to protect your company from any downside risk or potential harmful reputational damage.
Can you say more about your second point around the buy versus build? And from a practical perspective, what are some of the key considerations in making those decisions?
Yeah, I would say if I were to do it all over again, I think I might have spent a lot more of my time going to school learning about strategy or working in strategy, because I love the way strategic frameworks really force you to think deeply about what is your source of competitive advantage. And so I would start there. I would say, if as a leader you are going to build a product, there's something about that product that differentiates you from the competition and or is going to make it possible for you to meet a patient need before anybody else. So focus in on those things that differentiate you, and that's where you want to build. Today, different from where we were, Cal, when we tried to do what we were doing at Amgen, there are so many more organizations out there that understand what a platform as a service looks like or infrastructure as a service looks like. And in general, this idea of moving to cloud is something that I hope we're all not having a conversation about anymore, but it's what are we doing with what we've moved to the cloud to take advantage of. So I would say in places where someone else has the expertise and has already built the platform and can cover a lot of those basis for you, there really is no need for you to build the whole thing, the whole stack from top to bottom, but really focus on those aspects of it that differentiate you, primarily at the application layer data.
Let's come back to the privacy security side of things. As you know, healthcare has always been one of the most targeted industries from a nefarious actor's perspective in their attempts to get healthcare data. I'm talking to peers now that are talking about even nation states being involved in going after healthcare data of other countries, patients, clinical trials, pharma companies, etc. So I think, if anything, we're seeing an escalation in the intensity of attacks from the privacy and security side. What are you thinking about, and how are you advising companies as they fight this increasing challenge?
Yeah, I don't think there is a question in the mind of any board member today that sits on the board of a healthcare or a life sciences company about the importance of cybersecurity, information security, and just managing risk overall. There are increasing ways for board members and executive team members to receive education around the kinds of questions they should be asking. So ideally, the technology leader of the company should feel comfortable that the investment they are putting forth to the executive leadership team that needs to be made to ensure that all of the work that's being done meets regulatory standards and also cybersecurity standards. They really shouldn't shy away from that. Now, to the earlier point of buy or build, it doesn't necessarily mean that that leader needs to build all of that capability out within their team. So it goes back to thinking about who their strategic partners are and making sure they're partnering with trusted third parties. Not that they wouldn't trust but verify, but at the same time, there's so much work to do that just focusing on the internal systems and the new digital product development in and of itself can be more than a full-time job for a CISO, notwithstanding some of the underlying infrastructure that new infrastructure and platform as a service providers can manage for you. And then, in essence, what's required is for you to audit and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, but you don't necessarily have to take on that work. There are cybersecurity standards, there are NIST standards, there are ways to manage and measure your effectiveness as a leader when it comes to how you're performing in that domain. And again, I would just encourage any leader out there never to shy away from a conversation for doing what needs to be done to protect the company and protect the data of the patients they serve.
I think that's a really nice summary of many of the points that we've discussed today. Diana, thank you for joining us. Before we break, I'd love to hear about what's one positive thing that has come to you and your family, through the COVID-19 experience here.
Well, COVID-19 didn't deliver this, but my daughter-in-law did, and that is a 2.5-month-old granddaughter, our first granddaughter. We had the opportunity to see her last week for a week for the first time, and it was just it was life-changing. She just brings incredible joy to all of us and reinforces just how important family is, even more so during these times.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So exciting, so amazing for you and your family. Well, Diana, thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to hopefully meeting again in person soon.
I would like that. My pleasure, Cal. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.